in this lab, what we're going to do is we're going to set up Splunk. So our architecture is basically like this. We have our pfSense box here, and then we'll have our Kali instance outside the firewall. So if we're testing, we need to obviously either create one-to-one NAT, or we can do port forwarding. And then over here, what we'll do is we'll set up the Windows 2003 machine to forward some of its logs to the Windows 2008 host, which actually has Splunk running on it. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll be running Snort here, and Snort will be detecting certain threats against the Windows 2003, such as bad logins and so on. And then what will happen is Splunk Forwarder will forward it on to our Splunk enterprise server. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get set up. So you should find that there's an allocation of networks here. So what you do is you're able to set up your network for this the DMZ network here. And once you're set up, we should be able to test our things. Okay, so let's go to our firewall first. So obviously I've set this up already, and we'll just have a look to see what settings that we have for our firewall. So we're going to set up port forwarding on our public interface. Okay, so there we are here. So we'll just have a look at, I'll just show you the addresses that we have. Okay, so I'm using a LAN here of 200. And then my DMZ is sitting at 201. Okay, so 201 and 200 are the main interfaces. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to be able to look at our NAT for our port forwarding. Okay, so we're going to take from the WAN interface, and then we're going to forward 443, 23, 22, 21, 80, 445, and also for ICMP. And we're going to forward it through onto 2017. Okay, so that's where our Windows 2003 machine is actually going to sit. Okay, so go ahead and add all these rules, and then we should be able to sit outside the firewall and do our testing from them. Okay, and then what we need to do is to set up our firewall rules. Okay, so in this case, I'm allowing port from the WAN, port 443, 23, 22, 21, 80, 445, and ICMP again, all to be allowed from the WAN into the 2003 server. Okay, so we have port forwarding, and we also have these rules set up. Okay, so we can go ahead and we can set up our syslog server if we want to. Okay, so we want our settings general, and yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do is set up our Windows 2008 machine at .8. Okay, so we set up to be able to log firewall events. So when we see things happening in the firewall, then they'll be forwarded to our Windows 2008 machine at .8. Okay, so go ahead and save that. And that will be our machine set up for that. Okay, so that's our firewall setup. Now what we need to do is to be able to set up our 2003 machine. Yeah. Okay, so I've already set this machine up. And we can see this is 192.168.201.7, and there's the gateway there. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is be able to create some rules. So you can pull this from this link. Blue.txt. Okay, so just grab that. Here. Okay, then copy. And it's up to you where you put the rules, but I'll just put them in here. Okay, so I have you just open up Notepad. Here's my rules in there. Okay, so you just paste your rules into there, and so that's in the Snort rules folder. I think Snort should be enabled anywhere, but you can go into the bin. Okay, and then we can run it. So it's going to capture from the first interface, and then it's going to log to the Snort log folder. It's going to have ASCII logs, and it's going to read in from this rules file here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to run that, and now that's running our Snort rules. Okay, so hopefully it's logging to the the Snort log folder. Okay, so what we'll also do is to be able to enable other logs to be sent. So we're just going to open up our policy, audit policy. And then we're going to look into our Windows settings, then security settings, local policies, and then audit policy. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to flip this one. So when there has been a failure for our login, we can do a success or a failure. So I just set these to success and failure, and then hopefully Splunk will be able to see when someone logs into the machine or someone fails to log into it. So in the next step, what we'll do is we need a forwarding a forwarder agent to be able to forward the Snort logs and the event logs onto the Splunk machine. Okay, so let's look at downloading the forwarder. Okay, to check that, and we'll just customize some options. That's fine. That's fine. That's okay. And then what we'll do is we'll capture from the logs here. And then we'll also capture from the log. So here we are. That's our log. Okay, no deployment server. And then we are at 192.168. I think it's 201. .8, and that's the port. Okay, so we've logged we're monitoring the event logs with inside Windows and also the alert.ids file. Okay, that's finished. And so just let me start Snort. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the Windows machine here. Trying to remember password. Skip the update. Okay, so here's our Splunk interface. So if you start up Splunk, then what we have to do now is to be able to add our port to receive the data. So it's in settings. And this is where we can get all all our data sources that we're going to apply, and just see if I can grab this here, and just let me get over to settings. Okay, so it's in here that we set up our main data gathering. Okay, and forwarding and receiving. And what we want is, we want receiving. And in here, we would add the new, so I've already added it. So we add a new listening port on 9997, add new, and then that should give us our receiving port for Splunk. Okay, so let's have a look to see what it's giving us. Okay, so there's our host there. Okay, so let's see if we can see any data. So there you go. So that should start to receive data. So we'll just move that to the side. And then hopefully we can open this one up. Open up our Kali instance. So this is sitting outside our firewall. So we'll just open that up. What we need to determine is what the IP address is of our public interface, and because that will be because we're using port forwarding, that's the address that we'll be using to be able to access our Windows 2003 machine. So 10.201.106, 10.201.106. Okay. So we'll just ping it 10.201.106. Okay, that's working. So we'll just have a quick look over here. And there you go. So that log has just appeared. Okay, so that appears in a log. Now what we'll do is that we'll just telnet into our Windows 2003 server. And then we'll check over here, and hopefully in a log, then we can see our login. So there's our login there. So we can actually see a login with telnet. There's the rule that we fired. So ID 900. If we check our Snort SID, that's the rule that we fired. Just try. Just go again. Okay, and it's because we set up just a SYN. Okay, so there's the new one there. So Snort has detected the telnet login there. Okay, so the next one that we'll do is we'll set up for our FTP. So just have a look in Snort first. So I've got nothing on FTP just now. Okay, so we're going to use telnet and it's 192.168.1.106 on port 21. Okay, so in this case it's a bad login that we're looking to, and we may not have enabled port 21 on the server yet. So it's just not getting through. So we'll just have a look here. The 21's there, but it's just not getting through. Let me check. We've got the right WAN interface. And maybe in the server it's not actually enabled. 106. Sorry, it's the wrong address. So it's 10. So it's 10.200. And just let me check what the address is. So it's the address of the WAN interface that we're looking at. That address is 10.200.1.106. 10.200.1.106. Okay, very close. Okay, so user, administrator, pass, Fred. Okay, so there's the 5:30 alert. And if I go over here, have a look at our logs. There we go. Isn't that brilliant? So there's our bad log in there. So Snort has generated this log for us. There, just let me check what the SID is. 491, and that's it there. So just to show you that there's no smoke and mirrors here. So let's do it again. Okay, another 5:30, and then this time here is the second log. Okay, we can just search for for FTP. And it will give us the logs for it. Okay, so it's telling us what the host is and where it's actually coming from. We can go ahead and we can mine a whole lot of things from here. Okay, so that shows the FTP now. So let's do the nmap scan is a little bit more difficult because we're outside the firewall. But what we can do is we can do a ping, and hopefully we can detect the connections. 10.201.106. Now if I come over here, search for ICMP, and then it's there. Okay, so that rule is 900007. Okay, so that's given you an example of how we set up Splunk.